Hello, Internet! That was Robert. So, I haven't uploaded a video in a while because somebody knocked over my camera. Don't worry, it wasn't his fault. The camera was perched in an awkward position. His foot accidentally touched it. And it smashed my camera lens to bits. But we're taking it apart. We're going to fix it real soon. Hopefully it'll work eventually.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
We're engineers. We fix everything.
We're engineers. We'll figure it out. So, the video I'm going to do today is going to be how to install the Titan extruder for a Bowden tube system on the Robo 3D printer. So I'm going to show you the steps that I'm going to take to get there, and the reason why I'm doing this video before the next video, which is the dual extruder upgrade, is because this is the extruder that's going to run for the dual extruder itself. So, let's get to it. So this is the left side of my 3D printer. What I've done is I've made two squares the size of stepper motors on the side of the case. And here you can see two crosshairs that are the center of where the motors will go. I will drill a hole through the center of these first, and then I'm going to place the motor behind there, and I'm going to use that as a pilot for the rest of the holes so I can mount the motor inside the case of the 3D printer. Now, I had to make a few measurements because I wanted to make sure that this wouldn't collide with anything inside the actual printer. So with the printer at its highest level, as high as that the firmware and mechanically it will go, I can't touch two motors that sit on top of the printer this far up. I don't know the actual measurement from right now. I did a lot of hand measurements and a lot of looking, but I might put a sketch of the dimensions later on the actual distance I have from this, but this is all just done by hand right now. So right now the holes have been drilled out and I can put the stepper motor shaft through the middle of this. So now I need to make sure that the holes line up with each of the individual components on the actual stepper motor. So what I have right now is I have Robert holding the motor on the back because I already drilled the hole through. I'll give you the drill bit size down here and I'll let you know what the shaft of the motor is that I drilled through this. And what I did was I put that motor on a piece of paper and I laid out where the screw pattern goes. And I'm going to lay this on top of this piece of paper here. And now I can see with the square that I drew behind, I'm going to drill through the piece of paper and I'm going to get the 4 pilot holes on where I need to go and drill the holes.
So nasty when I put it on there.
Oh, you don't have it on yet?
No.
We just like
Coolio.
I got it in the mail.
Coolio.
Yeah, store, and I like opened it up. I was like, oh,
Coolio?
So I get to just drill through the hole here, and the motor gets sandwiched between the back of the printer and the extruder that goes up here. Alright, so now the hole is drilled out properly. I actually do know the measurement of this one. This is a 7/8. And I'm going to use my 7/8 hole cutter to cut the hole through the middle of this. Alright, so now I'm going around the edges, and I'm just taking away any of the shavings that my hole cutter didn't get through. So I ran into a bit of a snag yesterday. As you can see, my clothes changed. So the bolts for the extruder were too short. So I went and drove 45 minutes and 45 minutes back to McFadden's, a hardware store that has plenty of different bolts. I needed a 35mm bolt that's an M3. They didn't have one. So I got M40s and I'm about to go cut them with some bolt cutters right now. And then I got that on tape. That's hilarious. Then I'm going... Oh, man. Then I'm going to show you how to put the rest of the extruder back together. So let me just cut those bolts down real fast, okay? So like I was saying, I was able to find some 40 mils, but I couldn't find 35s. So I'm going to line these up on here, draw a little marker right here, then I'm going to use these and cut the strips out. So these are the bolts that E3D gave me, and these are the bolts that I just cut up. So it's only really like a millimeter difference, but it's that millimeter of the case that prevents it from actually being able to go through. Obviously this is the side we're going to be working with. The first thing I'm going to do is grab the bottom of the extruder. And this is going to have a screw in it. Now, I actually had to buy this too. This is an 8mm screw. The one they gave you, I think, is possibly a 5, if not a 6, but it's not enough to grab the motor through the carriage. So you need to get an M38 to fit through the side of a Robo 3D, or you can sand on the side of the case. I just thought it was easy to buy some screws. So I'm going to put that on there, and then I'm going to go to screwdriver. So I'll make sure it's all lined up first. Make sure the motor is where I want it to be. And then I'm going to make this nice and tight. And make sure all the holes are lined up so I can see the holes through the motor still, and that's what I want. The first thing you're going to do for the assembly of the extruder is you have this gear, and the base of this is going to go in the bearing here, and it's going to mesh with the gear on the motor. Now that has a set screw in it, so that's not going to go anywhere. And you want to make sure the set screw is not colliding with the teeth of the gear. If they do mesh up, they're not going to be able to spin the motor properly, and you'll get binding in your gears. So you want to be cautious of where you put that set screw. After that, you're going to want to put this thing. This is the bearing that holds the other end of the filament. That hangs on the shaft of the motor housing. You have a screw and a nut, and then a spring. These get compressed together. And that goes in the little nub right here. And this adds tension to the bearing that's on the hopped bolt. And they all line up together. This is the filament guide for the bottom of the coupler. The rounded edge goes towards the printer. And then this is your Bowden tube coupler. This gets placed right here and pressed in. And now your entire carriage is together. And then you have a nice little cap that's got the E3D logo on there. And this hex piece right here is going to fit on top of where the bolt is that can increase the tension or decrease the tension of your extruder. And that's going to go there. This snaps right on top, and then it gets screwed down. Now, you're actually given a smaller screw, and this doesn't meet up with the screw for the stepper motor because the stepper motor screw is already inside the motor. So that was that one screw that's below the coupler. So this one goes into the side near where that one was. Right? And then they also give you the Allen keys with the kit. So this gets tightened into here. I'm just going to get them all set in there first. Alright, so now the whole extruder is mounted to the side of the printer. You have the ability to add filament like this, and the motor is nice and tucked away back here, and I'm going to run the wire for the LED strip and the motors down this way. So because E3D sent me 2 of these and an extra motor, this is the extra motor that I have. This is the fixing kit. I'm going to put a new lens on the camera so I can get a close-up of what this looks like being installed on the printer. So this is my Plastic Fantastic. I love these things. So what you're currently seeing right now is a 24mm. So let me put that one on. So now you can see that it's a lot closer, and I think this one even has a wider aperture. So I can even get a little bit more light in there. So it's a little bit closer. I think the macro on this is a little closer as well. So I'm going to get you a nice close-up on what it looks like to install. Let's see if I can get that in focus first. So I'm going to be using another modular motor with the pins at the bottom right here. The first thing I'm going to do, because I already have them set up, is I'm going to push it through here and then figure out where I'm going to put the gear that goes on the motor shaft. So there's a small set screw that goes in the side of the gear that goes on the motor shaft. There's a little hole right here on the side. It's going to go in here. I'm going to make sure that goes in straight. Then you're going to find a flat spot on your motor. You want to make sure that the set screw stays on the bottom so that it doesn't interfere with the gears inside. And make sure it's kind of tight, and make sure the shaft of the motor rotates. So this is exactly like last time, except this time it's going to be a close-up. So again, the motor's going to go through here. I have the wire pointing downwards. This is going to go on top of this, and there's a small hole in here, you can see it on the camera right there, where the first screw is going to go. So now you can really see what's going on. So I'm going to line up all the holes, and then this bottom gear is going to go on top of the bearing and line up with the motor so that these can spin together. The bearing tensioner comes over here and comes down. Yes, James?
Are you on the camera?
I am currently on the camera.
No.
Alright. So the bottom tensioner goes here, and the bearing, so the bearing is going to press against the hub bolt right here. The hex bolt and nut they give you screw into each other, and the spring goes on top of that, and this gets placed here in this groove, just like that. After that, the filament guide gets pressed on here, and then the Bowden coupler gets pressed on the top of this. Make sure everything kind of moves together properly. Put your cap on here. And this is where the hex bolt is right here. This is where you can adjust the tension. These are the screws they gave me. There's one that's shorter than the rest of them. The shortest one's going to go on the top left, bottom right if you're doing it with the actual logo facing the other way. So this is going to spin on here, and this just tightens. Right, so now that's all put together. So these are the longer bolts that I got. I'm going to go cut these, and then I'm going to put them inside the motor. And so now I'm just going to tighten the bolts on all of them. And there you go. I got 2 extruders mounted to the side of the printer. The gears move really easily. And that's what they look like way up there inside the case. And so I've already checked the clearance, make sure that none of this is going to make contact with anything. So now I'm going to go reinstall it on the printer. So when I was in the middle of testing this, I actually already removed all of the gearing, the hobbit bolt, the tensioner, all from the 3D printer. And so I already have a Bowden tube running through the top. And so the Bowden tube comes to the top of the extruder right here. And I'm only going to put in one right now. And that coupler just grabs the Bowden tube right there, and the filament gets fed through the bottom. And then I'm using a Bowden tube for the extruder now. So this is the motor I was using to prototype it at first. We now need to go underneath and actually wire the motor into the carriage. Like always, make sure those screws are safe. We're going to open the side of the carriage up, and this is already tied into the E0 port. I don't have a driver in E1 yet, but I will soon. And so this is just going to go into this little hole right here for the side of the printer that it's on. I'm going to run the wire through there and attach it to the motor that I have currently attached to the Bowden tube. Now, before I close this up, I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to run the extruder forward and backwards and see if it's extruding the correct way before I close any of this up. Alright, so it's moving in the right direction, so now I'm just going to reassemble the entire printer and put it all back together. Alright, so now the printer's reassembled. I removed the excess Bowden tube I didn't need, and as you can see, the motors are back here, and I have the one Bowden tube going into my E3D right now. So I'm going to do a few test prints to make sure it's working, and then I'm done. So this was the cube that was just being printed. I can't get you a close-up of it because I don't have a different lens. This is not a zoom lens, this is a prime lens. But the print came out perfectly okay, and I'm ready to move to a dual extruder. And of course, that'll be next video. So this mod needs to be done first in order for the next mod to ensue. So I use a Titan extruder for my printer. You can use whatever Bowden tube system you want, but I will be doing a Bowden tube dual extruder. So I hope this video helps you install your Titan extruder on the Robo 3D R1. If you have any questions about this video or suggestions for future videos, please leave your comments down below. If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you click that subscribe button. And one thing before I leave, I've been getting a lot of private messages lately, both on YouTube and the community forum. And all I ask is that comment on the videos or open threads on the forum so everyone can respond, or I can respond publicly to help everyone and not just an individual. I want to help everyone all the time instead of individuals at certain times. And of course, thanks for watching.